are often things written in the media or on forums about whether Doctor Who is too scary for children, and there have been lots of moments over the years that have certainly pushed that fear factor to its limits, even for the adults too. I'm Ellie with Who Culture, here with the 10 darkest Doctor Who moments. Number 10. The Boneless's Murals, Flatline. The Boneless were belligerent beings from a two-dimensional universe who caused the 12th Doctor all sorts of problems by shrinking the TARDIS exterior while he was still inside it. They eventually converted into surreal-looking 3D monsters that could have come straight out of a Salvador Dali painting. Ooh, now there's a killer episode concept. Terrifying though they were, emerging from the ground and giving chase in a suitably dark tunnel, the Boneless were at their most sinister in 2D. The pre-credit sequence shows a frightened man on the phone to the police saying, "I can't speak up, they might hear me. They are everywhere," before being snatched from underneath and ending up on the wall as a screaming mural. Later, PC Forrest is also muralized as she searches a missing person's room. The Boneless slither towards her, then brutally pull her into the floor. Barely a second goes by when Clara and Rigsy burst into the room after hearing PC Forrest screams, only to discover her nervous system graphically displayed on the wall like a twisted art piece. The episode's writer believed that Doctor Who should be, and I quote, utterly terrifying and filled with body horror. Stringing up people's innards was certainly one way to make that statement, demonstrating that the Boneless were savage creatures who could not be bargained with. Does anyone else just think of Cassandra when they hear of the Boneless? I know that's not what she is, but that's where my mind goes. Number 9. Using humans for parts, The Girl in the Fireplace. The fourth TARDISode, remember those? Depicts the SS Madame de Pompadour sustaining severe damage in an ion storm. In the aftermath, it shows a member of the injured crew relieved to see something mechanical sounding approaching her. But in an instant, that relief turns to terror as she is killed off camera. We're all familiar with the story of the Doctor going back and forth through the 18th century French fireplace to see/snog Renette, aka Madame de Pompadour, while Rose and Mickey search the 51st century ship equipped with ice guns. They come across something truly disturbing though, even for 51st century standards. A human eye and a beating human heart, both wired into the machinery of the ship itself. Turns out that the Clockwork's droids were programmed to repair the ship by any means necessary, including harvesting the parts from the 50-strong crew and believing that Renette's brain could be compatible to replace the ship's broken command circuit. We get an idea of the grisly ordeal the crew went through when Rose and Mickey are tied down and threatened by a droid's mini-circular saw. Presumably the entire crew was butchered alive. A show for kids, you say? Really? Number 8. Daleks murdering a family, The Stolen Earth. The Daleks really embodied Terry Nation's alien fascist creation during Russell T Davis's first show-running era. We had a single Dalek exterminating its way through Henry Van Statten's bunker, the reality bomb test on a group of unlucky people, and one other, which we'll get to later on. Apart from the excellent Asylum of the Daleks and the Dalek Reconnaissance Scout in Resolution, they haven't reached that consistent level of fear since those 9th and 10th Doctor days. The Stolen Earth and Journey's End sees the Daleks at the height of their devastating power, invading the Earth and subjugating humanity. One man makes a fatal mistake by telling his family to get back inside their house before throwing a brick at a Dalek and yelling, "Get back in the sky! Get back where you came from and leave us alone!" In that moment, you know exactly what's going to happen next. 3 Daleks immediately move into an attack formation at the front of the house, and the music builds as if to serve as a warning of the horror that's about to unfold. Maximum explosive extermination of a husband, a wife, and their young son. Don't cross the Daleks. Number 7. Donna helps Miss Evangelista, Silence in the Library. Technology can be a wonderful thing in Doctor Who, such as River Song's sonic screwdriver being fitted with equipment that allowed the Doctor to save her. It can also be a freakish thing, as we saw with Miss Evangelista. The sight of her remarkably clean skeleton. I mean, you've got to hand it to the Vashta Narada. They're very efficient. Waste not, want not. Sorry, that in itself is a very dark moment, but it's what happens next that gets this moment a slot on this list. With everyone gathered round Miss Evangelista's remains, they suddenly hear her voice politely asking, "Sorry, where am I?" River explains to a distressed Donna that it's a data ghost. The communicator on Miss Evangelista's spacesuit held an impression of her living consciousness for a short period after she died. The Doctor tries to comfort Donna by putting it poetically that the data ghost is a footprint on the beach and the tides coming in. Miss Evangelista asks for the nice woman, our very own brilliant Donna, who acted kindly towards her previously. And Donna comforts Evangelista as she slowly fades away. It's a really haunting sequence, the sort of thing that stays with you you long after it's over. And also every child that watched that, you cannot deny, spent the next few days walking around going, ice cream, ice cream, ice cream, ice cream. Number 6, creation of the Peg dolls, Night Terrors. Why do we need to remind Ellie of this moment? This was creepy as hell! The eerie, eyeless, sing-song wooden peg dolls were brought to life as part of 8-year-old George's pantophobia, a crippling fear of absolutely everything. Anything he found scary was sealed in his bedroom cupboard, a doll's house, the sound of the lift, and even his kindly old neighbour, Mrs. Rossiter. Not merely content with chasing Amy and Rory around the doll's house while emitting the sound of creepy childish laughter, the peg dolls also possess the ability to transform people into more of their kind, a fate suffered by Amy and the landlord Purcell. These transformations are the stuff of nightmares, literally, and were horrifyingly realised on screen. I mean, the sounds are a mixture of wood creaking and bone cracking, and the CGI of the hair emerging from the top of her heads. Oh my god, it's so creepy and still quite impressive today, actually. Maybe you're just better off getting the Barbie dream house instead. Arguably no other episode in the modern era has conveyed a sense of childlike horror better than Night Terrors did, and these peg doll scenes will no doubt freak out the adults just as much. Tick-tock goes the clock, he cradled and he rocked her. Tick-tock goes the clock, even for the doctor. Hey, if I've got to be terrified, you've got to be terrified too. You're welcome. Number 5, Floor Zero Massacre, The Parting of the Ways. Captain Jack was right not to promise the rest of the people on Floor Zero that they'd be safe. But hey, no doubt fueled by his win on the weakest link, at least Roderick was extremely confident that the Daleks no longer existed. However, as soon as they blow up the android on Floor 495, the Daleks descend the elevator shaft, much to Linda's horror, who's observing events on a monitor. A lot of people die in Doctor Who, but it's usually people involved in the story directly. It's rarely a massive group of innocent people, and it's rarely as chilling as this. The slow processional manner in which the Daleks move provides a devastating contrast to the mass panic of the helplessly huddled humans, all of which comes to a conclusion in a cacophony of exterminate, screaming, Dalek gunfire, and Linda's reaction to what she's just witnessed. Still think the Daleks don't exist, Roderick, or would you like to review your answer? Number 4, breaking the emotional inhibitor, the Age of Steel. While the Daleks started New Who as the more menacing monsters, the Cybermen have stomped back strongly with some terrifying turns in Series 10 and in Series 12. Notwithstanding the gruesome scene where we see people being upgraded in a whirl of swords and scissors, John Lumick's Cyberman design was too robotic. You sometimes forget that these machines were once living, breathing people. Then again, perhaps that was the point, to make scenes like this one all the more affecting. After the Doctor and Mrs. Moore successfully navigate their way through the cooling tunnels underneath the cyber conversion factory, Moore takes out a Cyberman with an electromagnetic bomb. The Doctor begins examining it by removing the front plate to reveal its inner workings, but in doing so, he realizes that its emotional inhibitor is broken. The Cyberman reacts by saying, "Why am I cold?" and goes on to explain that her name is Sally and that she was going to get married to Gareth the following day. Even with a cyber voice, you can hear the anguish, the pain. It's one of those rare moments that brings humanity to the Cybermen and truly makes you realize how horrifying it is that there's a lost, terrified soul somewhere inside that cold metal shell. Number 3, gas mask transformation, the empty child. Oh, I knew this one was coming. Look, it might not be the darkest moment on this list, but it's undoubtedly the most iconic and traumatized a whole generation of children. The entire scene with Christopher Eccleston's Ninth Doctor and Richard Wilson's Dr. Constantine is crafted with incredible intrigue and tension, thanks to Stephen Moffat's writing and Murray Gold's unsettling score. Constantine's coughing and spluttering makes you sense something bad is about to happen, and as the Doctor's examination of the gas mask-wearing patients draws the same impossible conclusion, they've all got the same injuries, right down to the scarring on the back of their hands. And then the camera cuts to Constantine's own hand, which bears the exact same mark. His coughing intensifies, and before long, he utters those 4 famous words, "Are you my mum?" me. The Doctor can only look on, helpless to intervene, as Constantine's face morphs into a gas mask. I don't want to watch it again. Please don't make me see it again. We all needed our mummies after witnessing that, let's be honest. I think I need my mummy right now. Now, this scene was originally even darker, with producer Phil Collinson noting that the sound of Constantine's skull cracking was edited from the final broadcast. That was probably the right decision. It's not like we needed it to be any more scary than it already was. Please, no more. Number 2, Don't Cremate Me, Dark Water. Following Danny Pink's shock death, the Doctor and Clara end up at the 3W Institute in an effort to track him down. Inside, both are welcomed, the Doctor in particular, by Missy, who calls Dr. Chang. Chang asks the Doctor and Clara, is there a particular dead person you want to talk to? The BBC received over 100 complaints for the scene that follows. It's not visually vicious like many others on this list, but it's quite possibly the most psychologically traumatizing. In Chang's office, the Doctor and Clara ask what 3W means. Chang replies, the 3 words, and braces them for a shocking revelation. He tells them that the 3W's founder, Dr. Skarosa, played white noise through a translation machine and recorded a babble of voices, which he believed were from the recently deceased. Skarosa managed to isolate some of the voices, and Chang warns of the bone-chilling words they're about to hear. Don't cremate me. Don't cremate me! In other words, the dead are still conscious and are aware of what's happening to their bodies. Feeling cold? Well, you're probably still in a mortuary fridge. Screaming in agony? Probably shouldn't have chosen Burn Baby Burn for your committal song. The BBC defended this plotline, reminding everyone that the Doctor dismisses it as a con and a racket, which it is. Still, remember that a lot of people's minds were uploaded to the Nethersphere, and most would have been put down as a burner by default. Number 1, SCOOTI'S Devilish Demise, The Impossible Planet. Whose clever idea was it to go through all these terrifying moments? Because I am not gonna sleep tonight. Russell T Davies mentions in The Writer's Tale how much he loves The Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit. And we agree, it's one of the best stories in modern Doctor Who, and the best of Series 2 to boot. This is mainly down to how scarily the beast is portrayed, via Will Thorpe's possessed Toby Z, terrifying, Gabriel Wolfe's demonic vocals,
Don't turn around,
and an impressive-looking CGI beast. There are also plenty of hide-behind-the-sofa moments that will give the grown-ups a few nightmares, never mind the children. But the one that tops them all is SCOOTI'S death scene in The Impossible Planet. After hearing from the base's computer that someone has gone out onto the planet's inhospitable surface without a spacesuit, SCOOTI wanders over to a window and watches in disbelief as Toby bathes in the black sun. Toby turns around, an evil grin on his face, and tries to tempt her to join him, before slowly breaking the glass protecting SCOOTI from the endless depths of space. From the unsettling red eyes and ancient text plastered across Toby's face, which is terrifying, to SCOOTI pleading for her life as she realizes what's happening, it's really disturbing, as is the sight of her corpse floating towards the black hole a few minutes later. So yeah, a TV show that is well and truly appropriate for kids. Is that true? Well, we'll let you decide. Now that's the darkest moments that we talk about, but why not check out 10 dark Doctor Who facts that are never spoken about to just prove my point even more that this show is certainly not always appropriate for kids. In the meantime, I've been Ellie with Who Culture, and in the words of River Song herself, goodbye, sweeties.